Since not as many films are coming out in 2020 due to the worldwide pandemic, I thought now would be a good time to look back at last year's films, allowing me to discuss certain films that might not have had enough attention shone upon them at the time of release. Being a big fan of Japanese culture, I see a lot more Japanese films than your average British person might, so I decided it would be a good idea to create a yearly series summarising all of Japanese films that I was able to see that year. As I live in the UK, I don't get to see too many foreign films as not a lot get to release over here, but I sure appreciate those that do. Today we'll be covering the year 2019. I might be half a year late, but as people always say, better late than never.
ここね、表向きは浄水場として作られたんだけど、裏ではある実験に使ってたんだって。ある実験？人体実験。
One of the first Japanese films released in the UK in 2019 was Shinichiro Ueda's One Cut of the Dead. I actually got a chance to see it the year prior at Fright Fest, but I'm including it in this video as I'll never pass up an opportunity to talk about this film. One Cut of the Dead was somewhat of a phenomenon, mainly in Japan, but it did manage to gain a loyal following in cult fan bases in the West. It's a film where the less you know going in the better, but the basic premise of the first 37 minutes is that a zombie outbreak happens on the set of a zombie film, and the hack director decides to carry on filming and use the footage in his film. The first 37 minutes also take place over one long take with no cuts, and if somehow that incredible filmmaking feat doesn't interest you, the next hour will make it worth it. The film shifts into something almost entirely different, yet still fits into a well-structured narrative. Whilst most sites list the film as a zombie or horror flick, it is at its heart a feel-good comedy, a genre I'm not often a fan of, but if it's executed as well as One Cut is, all I can do is applaud. My favourite distributor, Third Window Films, released a Blu-ray and DVD, but is also available on Shudder. I can't recommend this film enough.
悠久の時を超えて受け継ぐ我が使命が今まさに果たされんとしている。神だ！神ならゴジラを倒せる!
Godzilla the Planet Eater is the third and final film in the disappointing Godzilla anime trilogy. Being the third in the trilogy, anyone viewing this film would likely know roughly what to expect this time around, and the film does little to improve on its predecessor's flaws. I respect that these films were quite different to Godzilla's many other incarnations, but Godzilla is a monster who has seen so many contexts, and this is probably the lamest. Much like the Blame adaptation, the film utilises ugly CG animation, which I cannot stand. After sitting through 3 of these movies, my patience had completely run out. I can't think of any reason to recommend these films to anyone.
この時を待っていた。そろそろオラとやろうぜ。
Continuing the trend of previous Dragon Ball movies, Dragon Ball Super Broly is incredibly well put together with the assistance of original creator Akira Toriyama. Dragon Ball Super Broly opens with a scene set decades prior to the current Dragon Ball era, where a young baby named Broly is exiled by King Vegeta over fear and jealousy of his high power level. After years of training, Broly returns with the help of Frieza to battle against Goku and Vegeta. This entry will hype up fans of the Dragon Ball franchise immensely. This is accomplished by the use of intense and fun music, as well as great character building. Of course, the protagonists have had years of development throughout the many Dragon Ball series and films, but even the newcomer Broly, or at least newcomer to canon, is given an interesting backstory and motivations that help the audience relate to him, giving the film an almost Black Panther-like side to it, where the audience could even side with the film's antagonist. It's also an incredibly funny film filled with great humour that very much amused me and the other viewers in the cinema that I watched it in. Dragon Ball Super Broly is the best thing to come out of the Dragon Ball Super series and is a must-watch for fans of the franchise. Hanagatami is a passion project that took 40 years to release. In the 70s, Nobuhiko Obayashi was hired by Toho to direct a feature film. His idea was Hanagatami, a story of the impact of World War II on Japanese youth. Instead, he ended up making House, which became a cult classic. 40 years later, he finally got a chance to direct his dream project just a few years before he passed away. Anyone who has seen House should be familiar with its surreal style, which Obayashi has continued to utilise in the rest of his career. Hanagatami continues that tradition, though it felt quite out of place in this context. I really enjoyed House and its unique style. I even made a 15-minute video essay about it. However, the playful style doesn't translate as well to a serious war film. I'm glad Obayashi finally got to direct the project he always wanted to make, and certain critics have given it positive reviews, so it is a noteworthy film, though it didn't entirely hook me.
記憶を失って帰ってきた夫。
本当は会社の女の子と旅行行ってたんだよね。
俺さ、本当は宇宙人なんだ。
え?
Released by Arrow in February of last year, Before We Vanish is Kiyoshi Kurosawa's touching sci-fi flick about aliens taking over humans' bodies. While the basic premise could be considered goofy, and there are a couple of action moments sprinkled throughout the film, it is at its heart an emotional piece, with a moving message about the power of love. The cast fit their roles well, which helps support its message. The ending is so sweet that I would recommend watching this film, and avoiding knowing too much going in. The Blu-ray also comes with a feature-length making of documentary for those who enjoyed the film and want to know more. River's Edge is a drama/crime film following a group of high school students facing many hard and adult issues. The film is incredibly dark and depressing, so it's certainly not a film for everyone, but I am personally interested in films tackling such difficult themes. This can be seen in the sex scenes reminiscent of a film like Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac, presented in a disgusting manner rather than appearing attractive. I won't show a clip to demonstrate this, but the film features moments of events like males pulling out, showing the viewers their cum splash as they finish. All of these bold and shocking themes make the film not really suitable for everyone, but for those comfortable with viewing these kinds of movies, it's an incredible piece of work. The direction and cinematography is great too, as is the mise-en-scène. All of the technical aspects of the film are remarkable, and I can still picture them clearly in my mind well over a year later. However, the story didn't leave as much of an impact on me. It was shocking and engaging in the moment, but when writing this video I had to look at the plot description on IMDb, and even that was incredibly brief. I loved its filmmaking aspects, but unfortunately the story didn't stick with me as much as I wish it would have.
地球が人間で溢れ返った今、唯一の望みが火星というわけなんですね。火星に行くには少々危険な手術が必要でね。
私行きます。
こんな話裏があるに決まってるだろ。
Takashi Miike is an incredibly prolific director with over 100 directorial credits on the IMDb. He's most famous for his horror and cult flicks like Audition and Ichi the Killer, though recently he has been responsible for some live-action anime adaptations like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Blade of the Immortal, my favourite live-action anime adaptation. On the 1st of April 2019, Arrow Video released Miike's adaptation of Terra Formars, which sees a group of humans travel to Mars only to be greeted by giant humanoid alien cockroach monsters. I'm not overly familiar with the manga or anime, but the film story felt uneven, likely a result of trying to fit a large source material into a single movie. Made on a Japanese film budget, the visual effects work ends up looking incredibly unconvincing, and the spiralling over-the-top story doesn't help your suspension of disbelief either. I like a lot of Miike's film, but once you've made over 100 films, it's almost inevitable that some of them are going to be duds, and unfortunately this is one of them. Luckily, I did get to see a much better Miike film the same year, which we'll get onto later. At Fright Fest 2019, I got to see a film that has been stuck in my mind ever since. That film is none other than Makoto Tezuka's The Legend of the Stardust Brothers. Released in Tokyo in 1985, this film never got to see a Western release until the ever-brilliant Third Window Films stepped in, who have since released a fantastic dual-format edition. The film follows two musicians forced to form a duo with the hopes of capturing the hearts of Japan's youth. It seems like a basic premise, but what it does with that setup is incredible and unique. It's often compared to the Rocky Horror Picture Show due to its quirky style and funky soundtrack, though both films have their own unique voice, and Stardust Brothers does far more unique things with less problematic content. Three big factors played into my love for this film. The first is an obvious one, its joyous soundtrack. There are many songs that will make you want to dance in your seat that I have even listened to outside of the film on multiple occasions. The two lead performances also add to the film's upbeat energy, delivering charm to make the audience support their characters' journeys. The third takeaway from this film is its irreverence. Many events in this film are portrayed in shocking and stylish ways, almost reminiscent of Nobuhiko Obayashi's house. The film will brighten up your day and certainly belongs in any cult film fan's collection. Including this next film is technically cheating, as it hasn't been released in the UK, but the Japanese release does include English subtitles in the main feature. This film has a very long title, and that title is Love Live Sunshine, the school idol movie Over the Rainbow. This film acts as a sequel to the Love Live Sunshine anime series, a spin-off based on the Love Live franchise. For those unfamiliar with the franchise, it's a multimedia project focusing on groups of girls performing idol concerts, singing and dancing. I love the original Love Live story, but when it came to the Sunshine spin-off series, I didn't feel it had nearly the same impact on me. With a higher budget, dance sequences could look more impressive, but the characters were far less engaging for me, and I felt a continuous sense of been there, done that, as so many of the plot points and character traits were copied from the original series. Even this movie falls under that category. The first movie saw Muse travelling abroad, so the Sunshine movie felt it had to see Aquaz travelling abroad. A lot of the story beats in the film felt forced and pointless. At one point in the movie, a character goes missing, which could be an interesting plot point for a movie, and a unique choice for the anime of this genre, but she gets found in the next scene immediately following. Some of the music is nice, but overall it's not a particularly well-made film, and the first movie engaged and emotionally impacted me a lot more.
はい、回った。
はい、よーい、スタート。
皆さんこんにちは。
Kiyoshi Kurosawa's To the End of the Earth also saw a few UK screenings at the BFI London Film Festival. The film focuses on a young Japanese reporter travelling to Uzbekistan for a travel show. There are some engaging moments, nice shots and good acting throughout, but at 2 hours it began to drag a little for me. I can see a lot of people enjoying this film a lot, but I wasn't as keen on it as I was with Before We Vanish.
旅の終わり、世界の始まり。
The Forest of Love is the latest film by my personal favourite director Sion Sono. The film is somewhat of a return to form for the director, embracing the evil and more disgusting side of society presented in his older films. Though not as long as Love Exposure, its 2.5-hour runtime is another of Sono's signatures, packing a sprawling story into feature length. Unfortunately, it doesn't end up as neatly structured as its superior works, like Love Exposure, Cold Fish, and Himizu. It was disappointing that it didn't live up to his previous work, but when I view those films so highly, they are hard films to live up to. It still features the quirks I love about Sono films, and it was nice to watch a brand new film in that style, but it is a shame when I know the director can do better. Fans of Sono's work will likely get some enjoyment out of this, but those who haven't seen his other work are better off checking them out first. First Love was another film I got to see at the BFI London Film Festival, as well as another film by Takashi Miike. This film is being described by some as a return to form for the director, though I feel that is unfair as he has made other quality movies recently, like Blade of the Immortal. The film sees a boxer diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, saving a girl suffering from hallucinations from a pursuer, leading him to accidentally get mixed up with the Yakuza and Chinese mafia. It sounds crazy, and it is, though brilliantly so. Fans of his Dead or Alive and Black Society trilogies will definitely get a kick out of it, as it blends their absurdities and hilarity with better filmmaking thanks to its higher budget and Miike's years of experience. It's a brilliant film and a must watch. Hit gag series Osomatsu-san returned for a feature-length movie after 2 hilarious anime seasons. Osomatsu-san is a modern reinterpretation of the classic Osomatsu series, featuring many funny comedy skits revolving around identical sextuplets, each with their own personalities. Whilst the protagonists may look similar at first glance, their unique traits make it easy to identify and tell them apart. Whilst the characters aren't overly complex or in-depth due to it being at its heart a sketch sitcom, they are incredibly likeable, each with their own strong and loyal fanbase, proving the strength of their character designs. The movie continues what made the series successful: absurd yet followable situations led by super charming characters that you always want the best for. The film's basic premise is that the Matsuno sextuplets end up reliving their high school years, a gold mine for comedic potential in a series like this. It pulls it off well, resulting in a pure, crowd-pleasing experience that any fan of the series would appreciate. I would recommend this film, but I'd recommend watching the anime first, not only for a deeper understanding of the characters and running gags, but also because it's a brilliant series that I would recommend anyway. Moving from one she to another, our final Japanese 2019 UK film release is this massive Godzilla collection by the Criterion Collection. The Godzilla franchise is an odd case study in that whilst an incredibly large fanbase exists for the series, very few of its films have actually been released over here. That was until the Criterion Collection saved the day by releasing the 15 original Godzilla films made during the Showa Era. As far as the product itself goes, this release is top of the game. Just having all these films finally released over here is mind-blowing, as it seemed like it would always just be a pipe dream. The set contains the Japanese versions of all 15 films, as well as the American edits of Godzilla and King Kong vs. Godzilla, plus English dub tracks for select films. It's certainly the definitive Godzilla package. When it comes to the films themselves, the quality does vary. I will always sing the praise of the original Godzilla, which I consider to be a phenomenally made flick, showcasing horror and destruction in an engaging metaphor, creating one of film's greatest monsters of all time. The sequels, however, do venture into a bit of a cheesier territory with varying results. The sequels essentially became wrestling matches, which aren't for everyone, but for those like me who enjoy giant kaiju taking each other down, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, does so brilliantly. Though a lot of the installments are for the most part mediocre, I do have nice things to say about all of them. 15 films and a £150 price tag may seem daunting to some, so I'm shying away from giving a broad recommendation to everyone, but I certainly enjoy this collection and would encourage you to look into the possibility of seeing if it's right for you. Check out the original film either way though, it's a classic.
Godzilla!
Before we go, there are a couple of other films I wanted to mention, as though they might not have been made in Japan, they are all heavily inspired by Japanese pop culture. Alita Battle Angel is an American adaptation of the Gundam manga series, directed by Robert Rodriguez of From Dusk Till Dawn and Sin City, and written and produced by James Cameron, writer-director of The Terminator, Titanic, and Avatar. That last film is what this film adaptation feels like, an Avatar-type production with a high budget and a lot of admittedly very serviceable visual effects work, though its large story weighs it down. It has some impressive CG, and the team's determination to bring the project to life is commendable, but overall it doesn't leave as much of a lasting impact and isn't entirely structurally solid. It ends up in the same bin as 2017's Ghost in the Shell remake, where occasionally anime and manga fans might bring it up and have a conversation along the lines of, "Hey, do you remember when that movie came out? Yep. Do you remember what happened in it? Nope.
We would appreciate it if you keep the volume as low as possible."
Of course.
Novel by Ryu Murakami, Piercing follows a man's journey to kill a prostitute. This might seem an odd topic for some viewers, but being a Murakami story, it ventures out into even weirder territory as the film progresses. The mise-en-scène in the film is interesting, as the film builds a stylish and bizarre world. Unfortunately, the film ends prematurely, just as it dips its toes into the truly weird and shocking, leaving the viewer with a slight disappointment. It's not a bad film, but it's not one I'd recommend either.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
No.
What's the nastiest thing you've ever done?
Next up we have Top Knot Detective, another third window release. Top Knot Detective is a mockumentary film about a fictional Japanese TV series. It targets a very specific subculture, which luckily I fit into, but for fans of that subculture, it couldn't have done a better job. There's a lot of goofy violence, parodies and references to iconic films and franchises, and just an overwhelming passion for the subculture that it focuses on. There's even a scene shot at a comic convention, and my eyes lit up when I spotted Love Live cosplayers, as I love that series. The film might not be for everyone, but for those who the film is intended for, you will have a blast.
Someone there? Whoever you are, I know how to use this.
Oh, jeez. Here we go. I know, you can't understand me, but put down the stapler or I will electrocute you.
Did you just talk?
Whoa. Did you just understand me?
Inspired by the Pokémon franchise, specifically the Detective Pikachu 3DS game, Pokémon Detective Pikachu is exactly what the title implies. Tim Goodman attempts to solve the mystery of his father's death alongside a Pikachu with memory loss that only he can understand. It might seem like an odd choice to start a live-action Pokémon franchise with a bizarre spin-off title like this, but it worked out for the best. The cast sells the movie. Justice Smith brings great charm to his role, engaging the audience into rooting for him, and being paired alongside Ryan Reynolds voicing Detective Pikachu leads to many funny moments with surprising chemistry. An incredible loyalty to its source material is present, pleasing fans of the Pokémon franchise. Too many adaptations take so many liberties that they end up irritating fans, but that's not the case here. Due to this, those who dislike the Pokémon series won't get much out of the film, but the film isn't made for them and it succeeds at what it set out to do. It's probably the best live-action video game adaptation to date.
We're gonna do this, you and me.
How many of these things are there?
17 and counting.
That's messed up.
Finally, Godzilla King of the Monsters is the latest installment in Legendary Pictures' Monsterverse cinematic universe, a point which is frequently acknowledged during the film's runtime. King of the Monsters acts as a sequel to 2014's Godzilla, and is of course based on the Godzilla franchise. The film sees the return of Godzilla as well as introducing the Monsterverse iterations of Mothra, Rodan and King Ghidorah. This was the first American Godzilla film to adapt these monsters, and their inclusion as well as the film's colour palette set up the potential to create an incredible film, but unfortunately the final product was disappointing. Whilst the cinematography is promising with a pretty colour palette, the film, like its predecessor, relies too heavily on the use of darkness and shadows to hide the flaws in the monster's CG. This colour-infused style was done a lot better in Kong Skull Island, another Monsterverse film. Mothra, Rodan and Ghidorah are nice to see with Hollywood quality effects, but the film continues to make the same mistakes that America keeps making with its Godzilla remakes, focusing too heavily on unengaging human characters and never capitalising on the fun possibilities of kaiju battles. The basic premise is similar to 1964's Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, but its execution isn't as fun or engaging. I'm hoping that next year's Godzilla vs. Kong is well made, but when America keeps making the same mistakes over and over, I am hesitant. Godzilla King of the Monsters isn't completely awful, but when the same premise was done so much better in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, you're better off just watching that instead.
This is Godzilla's world. We just live in it.
Damn right.
So that just about covers it. This video ended up being very long, but that's just because I am so passionate about this topic. I really hope that this video does something for you, as Japanese films are woefully underrated in the UK, and I'd be amazed to see more people giving them the love they deserve. If you love Japanese film, make sure to spread the word so that more people get to experience what we do. And if anybody's watching who hasn't, please check out the Japanese films featured in this video, preferably one of the good ones, and hopefully you'll find something new to enjoy.